Awesome. I see that there are like 2 minutes, so it's about to start. So again, like thank you everyone for joining us today. It's a historic day or evening for Parta. This is the first webinar for us, so yeah, kind of feeling some goosebumps. But yeah, just some like household items presenting like the hosts of today's event. I'm Andrew. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Parta. And I'm so happy to share the floor today with Francesca, Growth and People Development partner in Vinted, and Heidi, our Chief Learning Experience Officer. It's hard to imagine that like Heidi joined like already almost like 2 months ago. I feel it's about like yesterday. But yeah, and from the agenda perspective, we'll have most of our time dedicated to learning Francesca's story, which will be moderated by Heidi. There will be 2 minutes of boring stuff from myself. And yeah, I promise this is the only boring stuff today. And I'm sure we'll try like to keep enough time for Q&A to give you the opportunity to ask all the questions. Awesome, Heidi. Thank you for turning to the next page. So yeah, I just wanted like to share with you the kind of big story behind Parta, the reason why we decided like to build this company. And yeah, I think it's just nicely connects with the Francesca story. So like we started like our journey in the learning space 9 years ago. We had the agency business, a team of about 50 designers creating custom learning for global teams like McKinsey, McDonald's. And one of the things that we've noticed over the years is that the demand for custom learning outpaced the capacity of the L&D teams massively. And at some point, we felt that demand increased so much faster, and it was so hard for internal L&D teams to kind of to close this gap. So we decided that let's have a look at the other domains. Let's have a look at web design, websites, and see how they kind of solve this problem. And what we've noticed is that they found a way how they can transition their like solo individual creation process into something much more collaborative, in something that were designed for team use and collaboration from the ground up. So we decided that it's time like to build something like Figma for the world of e-learning. So that idea was born like 5 years ago, 4 years in a stealth mode, and released the product about a year ago. And if you can turn Heidi to the next page, there are like two like big ideas behind Parta. The first one was to find how we can, as a new tech on the market, to help people to be more productive, how we can standardize, let for better collaboration, bring the entire team together, all the stuff that fully under control of the L&D teams. But the other more like provocative and totally non-consensus idea was how we can let L&D transform itself into the role not just as a solo creator, but more as a center of excellence, so that we can empower the rest of the organization to create the content. And with that transformation, our idea was just kind of to refocus from creating the compulsory type of the content only, which oftentimes we just have enough time for, and find a way how we can kind of like just give the opportunity to like to create the content that will be relevant for today's business needs. And with all our conversations, we found so many different like love and hate relationship around this idea. And I'm so proud like to have like Francesca's story today because it delivered on every single piece of the like philosophy that we put behind Parta. So that's kind of a few minutes of boring macro stuff. And I would love to pass the mic, Heidi, to you so that you can moderate and help Francesca to share her story today.
Thanks, Andrew, for sharing. Yeah, so here's something we're going to talk about first and foremost, and that's the challenge that Francesca faced, because I am sure that she is not alone. And feel free in the chat as we're kind of having this conversation to share your experience or to react or to share that you have felt similarly, right? So, Francesca, give me a little bit of what some of your common obstacles and issues were before you started using Parta, being the L&D team?
Okay, sure. Before jumping into that, let me say hello to everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar and being interested in my story. Also, thank you, Andrew and Heidi, to finding my story interesting. I'm glad to share this with you guys. And yes, actually, Andrew, with this absolutely not boring presentation from a few minutes ago already introduced the challenge. So he posed it in the most perfect way. So e-learning demand outpaced L&D team's capacity massively. Like the word massively really describes the situation, the challenge. So I work in a wonderful L&D team, our people growth and development team at Vinted. And the thing I like the most about our team is that each one of us is truly specialized in what they do. And the case for me was e-learning development. I am truly passionate about it, the craft of it, everything. And also I am very interested in authoring tools. I look into every one of them. And yes, I'm always happy to take in e-learning creation requests. However, since we are a very specialized team, I was the only one
Sure.
specialized in learning development. And this made me very narrow human bottleneck. So basically,
Sure.
yeah, that was the main problem. So we had many different teams enthusiasts at the idea of creating learning resources for the organization to share their knowledge and expertise, and I was the only one able to support them if what they were looking for was a digital learning piece of content, so an e-learning. Yeah.
Sure. So, yeah, being the only one who can handle all of those requests and knowing that even if you are willing, right, as you are, like you're like, I'm passionate about it, I'm willing to do it, but I'm only one human being, right? So, those requests can get very, and I'm sure that people in the comments can absolutely relate to that, right? Even if you're a team of two or three, sometimes the amount of people you're supporting is so much that it just becomes really cumbersome to try and take in all those requests, you know? Awesome. So let's talk about how you found Parta.
Okay, so as I already mentioned, I've always been a bit of a outdoor tool geek. So I try to keep myself informed. I go to fair exhibitions, for example, Learning Tech, and I saw a few other companies providing similar tools, but they were only similar and they never fully convinced me. So then I decided to join a community that is present in LinkedIn, is the L&D Shakers community. And I was so happy when I saw that there is a Slack channel within the community that is fully entirely dedicated to tools. And I noticed that basically there was someone looking for beta testers and early adopters for Parta. And I was so curious. So I just decided to, answer the message. And basically, the skepticism that I had every time I was considering an alternative to what I was already using for many years wasn't there. So I decided to move forward and give this a try. Yeah.
What was different? What do you think it was that made the skepticism kind of stay at bay? Because
First,
I know a lot of people are unwilling to change their tools that they already use and that they're used to, right?
So normally, the first thing that makes me skeptical when I evaluate if I should give a new authoring tool a try or not is the ability of customizing as much as I can. I think that everyone here in this call knows Storyline. And this is a tool that I absolutely adore and love. I find fangirl articulate every time I can. And the thing why I like this so much is because once you have learned to play by the rule book, it's fine. But then there is another whole war when you start hacking, and then where things gets fun, and you don't have that in other authoring tools. But the thing I liked about Parta is that it gives people the chance to create e-learning the easy way by selecting pre-made templates and blocks.
Sure.
Or you can move to the other side of Parta, where you can basically just create everything to your hot content. And another thing actually is that when I was considering tools to solve my issue being the human bottleneck for e-learning creation, I saw that many relied a lot on having AI do the job for you. And
Yeah.
Parta, of course, offer AI to support your training creation, but it's not all about that. You don't have AI creating content for you. And thank you, Andrew, for the no-code editor. And basically, yes, that way, not having AI doing everything for you, I had the feeling that quality was still a priority and not
Sure.
just quantity. So delivering a lot of AI generated content, missing all the subject matter expert involvement.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because sometimes it's good to be the bottleneck if the alternative is that people just want more and more courses, right? We just need more courses all the time, right? And then they just employ an AI tool to make those courses. And like you said, there's no way to there's no guardrails, there's no way to vet it, there's no way to make sure that it's high quality. But with Parta, when you can build the templates for your SMEs to kind of make the content, and then you can kind of go back over it and customize it how you want to. It just makes that process a lot easier. And you had a successful pilot too, right?
Yeah. So we started experimenting with Parta last summer, and I had already a few subject matter experts that were interested in developing their own content for several reasons. The first thing is that they wouldn't wait my availability because, of course, huge problem of being the bottleneck.
Sure.
And also the fact that at Vinted, we have, like many other organizations, a few core values. One of them is that we co-create. So many times we're looking at our digital learning library, the assumption from every person who came to me with a training request, like the assumption was, I will have to do this for myself in collaboration with the L&D team, right? And they didn't know that I was the only one creating all that content. So basically,
Sure.
the request is never, can you make a training for us? But is, how do we make a training together? And basically, finally, 6 months ago, or maybe almost 8 months ago, I was able to answer, yes, we can do it together. And I shared the license to the tool, and I gave access to the tool to these course requesters. And we created together 3 different e-learning pieces with 3 different stakeholders. I was thinking of starting it slow, just 1 people, and said 3 immediately. And we started with GenAI training that is still very, very popular and appreciated, and other legal and compliance training, and how to navigation tutorial to internal platform that we use to do our job.
I think those are really great examples for a pilot too, because those are like the exact kind of projects that we want to encourage that kind of co-creation with, right? Like you're not just handing over the keys to a SME and saying, here, go make this 1 year leadership development program and like, sending them away and not having any involvement in it, right? Like they're timely projects, they're small projects, they're projects where the information getting where it needs to go is more important than it being gamified or very aesthetically pleasing or like, public facing where you have to worry about branding and the aesthetic of it more, right? So I think those are really good examples too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your process then versus your process now a little bit. So walk me through what the process was when you were a self-described kind of bottleneck, right? What was the process like for getting requests and how did you have to handle them and how did you have to kind of prioritize them before?
So being the only e-learning developer, we tried with my manager and my team to kind of gatekeep as much as possible, but it wasn't like intentional. It was just that, of course, you're always in the loop of what we are cooking during the quarter or during the months, and it was always well known that I had no capacity for letting anything in. I had basically my roadmap busy for the next 6, 7 months. So basically, the idea was I need training, and okay, wait 8 weeks for it, wait 2 months for it. And normally we didn't share too much. That training was built in house. So only those people who really needed big pieces of training, for example, compliance training. So another issue I was facing was that I was building only compliance training because that always get top priority. Like it's not that bad. I enjoy doing that as well, but still like kind of repetitive after a bit. And basically, yeah, only few selected stakeholders had the ability of having their learning built in-house by me. So yes, and it was all a work of getting the course requester asking to their manager if they could ask my manager if I could make e-learning. It was very laborious and inefficient, but this way, like my capacity was more manageable. Instead, when basically we understood that we could enable people sharing their expertise directly using Parta and having me more in a role of an editor and a supporter, and more like the e-learning development part was still there, but finally I was going back more into an instructional designer kind of role. So solving impact and business problems through instructional design. Basically, what happened was that we decided to open the door, promoting the fact that we've been building in-house e-learning since I started working there. It's just that I didn't have any capacity to do more of what I was already doing. We created a form to request training. We received like immediately 12 requests, and what I had to do, it was great. And like 12 requests meant much variety of topic compared to compliance training. So
of course.
So I was also very happy about that. And basically what I started doing was having a 30 minutes consulting calls with each requester, trying to understand if the subject and the kind of learning outcomes they were looking for made the project suitable for using Parta.
Of course.
Among 12 requests, I think that only 3 or 4 were too complex to be built in Parta. And basically, I just gave them access. What I did was establishing frequency of meeting with each one of them, and just supporting and curating. And the best part was learning about several different subjects while I was supporting them during the editing. Yeah.
Sure, because then that only helps you be better at your job. The more organizational knowledge you have, the more you can kind of take those incoming requests and have a little bit more context and maybe know quicker, right? Whether it's suitable for working, co-creating in Parta, or if it's something that you need to take on. And then with those 3 or 4 projects, the nice part is that if they are too complex, now you have the time to be able to tackle them, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's good because now whenever I have to keep building stuff in Storyline, I just don't have to copy paste the previous template and repopulate it. And honestly, the part that I appreciate the most after introducing Parta to the organization is that I don't focus on e-learning development anymore, but I get time to do analysis and understand if training is really the solution, providing alternative solutions such as job aids or maybe different kind of product. So it's good because, as I said, I love developing e-learning, but I see that as a support of being an instructional designer, which
Sure.
was what I was missing the most.
Yeah.
Plus all the other part of being super geek in Storyline and making very complex thing, which I didn't have time to.
Sure.
Now
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, you get to do more of kind of those exploratory things that we often tend to skip in L&D when we don't have the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you created templates for the SMEs as well, right? Like you created the templates that they use to input their content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And so they don't have to know about learning design specifically, or they don't have to, because we know SMEs like to give us all the information, right? So how do you create templates in a way that kind of puts parameters around that desire that I'm sure you've run into, where SMEs just want to give us the entire I was handed a binder this thick once
yeah.
from a SME of just PowerPoint slides. He's like, here you go. This is for the course. And I was like, I don't want it.
No, I have to say that on that part, I'm very lucky. We are super pragmatic on like in terms of entire organization on like selecting the kind of information we want to transfer and knowledge we want to
Nice.
transfer. So of course you get those very passionate subject matter expert that wants to share everything they know and like instead of arm wrestling them, like the important part is realizing that they're super passionate, super enthusiastic. So basically there is where basically the instructional designer role pops out more, because you need to make them understand that you are an ally and you want to make sure that all that knowledge that they want to share is digestible and retained through the course. So basically, I think that when it comes to template, the thing that helps them the most is creating a nice structure that is clear and straightforward in the course, and then basically using all the amazing blocks that are already available in Parta to give a rhythm and alternating pieces of interaction with I wouldn't say block of text, because if there is a block of text, there is an issue in the first
Sure.
place. But basically, yes. And something that I do normally is also using the basically the rich text editor to give the subject matter expert instruction on how they
Nice.
are supposed to fill that block with content. And yeah, it's good because now that I have more time to support all the course owner, basically I can just have monthly calls with those more tech savvy subject matter experts and only support them through
Sure.
editing. But those that are less tech savvy or very passionate and struggle to, maybe remove something from the course, we can
Sure.
have more frequent calls, and some of them, rather than just editing and feedback session, are co-creation session, because like something that I notice other tools are lacking is the fact that you can work simultaneously on the same project. Exactly, the
Yes.
example of Figma that Andrew was using before. And basically that helped them a lot, because you can start developing together the first couple of lessons, and then they are
Nice.
totally autonomous. So basically the role that I have after the few couple of lessons developed together is just to review, leave comments, and make sure that they agree with the proposal I'm making, and then basically keep going this way until they're happy. And normally they're happy very, very soon, because compared to before, when it took me 95 hours to develop a piece, 60 in case I was reusing a previous template or working on a very simple project, now it takes me 10 or 12 hours to curate one course.
Yeah, I love that you gave them what Linda calls in the chat worked examples, right? Where you've given them the template, but the template is, instead of lorem ipsum text, right,
Yeah.
that we've all seen, it's actual instructions for how to then build the content within that. And what a great point you made too about you can kind of tailor how hands-on you are with the different SMEs, and how, how tech savvy they are, or how, sometimes we get SMEs that are mostly SMEs, but like they might have to talk to one or two other people who are even more subject matter experts than they are. So, you don't know who all's getting involved at different stages. But I think the other thing that it probably does, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that giving them so much power in authorship of these courses, gives them like a pride of ownership that sometimes I think we're missing with SMEs in L&D, where like, we're like, oh, they haven't gotten back to me in 3 weeks. And, we just get ghosted, and we're like, well, don't they care? They're the ones that asked for this course. But then you give them that pride of ownership like you're doing. And I think that it helps them just inherently become more engaged, because now they're also the creator. They're also the author.
Yeah, I think that's something that resonates a lot with me when I heard you explaining this. Like, was this feedback that I got very frequently by subject matter experts, and it was like it was great to see all the content that I gave you migrated into an e-learning. This was before Parta. However, I wish I was more involved.
Ooh, yeah.
So basically, there was this thing that I was so busy trying to deliver everything that was requested to move to the next project, that I was just like, organizing my calendar in 3, 4, 5 hour block to
Sure.
just keep doing this and deliver as soon as possible, forgetting that every now and then it's good to have the subject matter expert involved, right?
Sure.
But basically, yes, now they are part of the creation process as well. And that part of basically, having that ownership of the content is a huge help for me as well.
Oh, I'm
So,
sure.
yeah.
And it also, I mean, you said before that and this is a good, I can go ahead and switch the slides now because this is a really good segue. You said before that you didn't advertise it, that you were creating courses. And now you're not only advertising it, but you're inviting people to help. And I know that when we started at one of the organizations I worked at, we started letting our SMEs help create content as well. And what happened was they wanted to show, well, we didn't even have them help create content. We had them help do voiceovers. This was like several years ago. And one of the things that happened was they wanted their friends who are their coworkers, their colleagues within their department or even in other departments, they wanted them to hear their voiceover. So they would be like, go take this course because I did the voice, right? Like that same kind of pride of ownership where you're essentially kind of creating a learning culture by
Yeah.
having all these different authors who now can say, hey, did you see my course? right?
Yeah. So that something very similar happened. Like I was expecting something like it, like, or on a philosophical level, I was imagining something like that to happen. So basically, I'm enabling subject matter experts to share their expertise with the rest of organization. These are the foundation of a very well functioning learning culture, right? What I wasn't expecting though was this kind of social media effect, because basically the first e-learning built on Parta that we launched in our LMS didn't had like the PGD, which is the abbreviation of People Growth and Development Team,
Sure.
signing the product, but it was actually the name of the subject matter expert.
Nice.
And then we started getting questions like, how did my colleague build this thing? Because we've been talking with my manager that I should share my expertise on data literacy with the new joiners of my team. How can I do that? And basically, you have this thing that you want to look at what your colleagues are doing, because that is much more interesting of the yet another e-learning made by the same author with the same tone of
Sure.
voice, etc. And plus you want to be the next one sharing the expertise. And I think that in many other organizations there is this like career level framework where you progress in your career also the more you share your knowledge with others. So this is a wonderful way and a very tangible way to also showcase and plead your case that it's time to grow, because you're sharing knowledge and you're bringing value and making an impact in the business through that. And when I started noticing that, I think that we already had this conversation in the past. And I also went Google this because I couldn't remember exactly the name, but it reminded me a lot of that very old school first generation YouTube phenomenon called Where the Heck is Matt? It was this guy who went all over the world dancing and no one was looking at his content until it started involving the people from the places he was visiting, dancing with him. And basically it became viral. It was one of the first viral phenomenon on YouTube, and basically
Nice.
that's exactly what I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like speed and efficiency, yes, is one of the outcomes, but like building this culture where people value learning because they're part of it and not just sent a PowerPoint 3 months after they requested it, I think is really, really important. I think it would be great if we could have you share your screen now and just show us a couple of the things that you have set up in Parta. I think this would be a good opportunity to kind of give you the floor and
Sure.
let you show us a little bit of what you mean.
Okay, so I can start with the project that basically was the like the beginning of everything for me at
Great.
Vinted. So the first project that I shared with an SME, which was the GenAI one. And yeah, so I'll start like with the preview. So yeah, the subject matter expert shared a presentation with me. So this course that you're looking at right now used to be a live presentation. And of course, it was very difficult to, bring it to as many teams as possible because of the very common issues that live presentation have in terms of scalability that we all know. And yeah, so basically starting from the presentation that the subject matter expert shared, I just outlined the course content and I started developing the blocks for the template for the subject matter expert to populate. So the no-code editor allowed me to replicate the way we ask question to ChatGPT and then clicking on the
Nice.
button to basically have our answer. And yeah, so this is exactly the block that I was mentioning before, text block, where I was suggesting the subject matter expert how to fill the content from the presentation in here. And the thing that I did was basically supporting him with the images and creating interactions to support his knowledge in a visual and interactive way. The thing I like about this course is that every single piece of image is AI generated to stay,
Nice.
consistent with the
On
topic.
brand, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so basically, the subject matter expert did almost everything, selecting the memes, the gifs and stuff, and I just had to support him. So yeah, keeping with the replication of ChatGPT and all the examples. And the main thing wasn't even selected by me. Of course, gave a demo of the tool. Of course, this is a GenAI training, so we're talking of a very tech-savvy subject matter expert.
Sure.
And so it was very surprising to see how he explored the platform and created almost everything by himself. And I just had to edit the content to make sure that it wasn't too heavy.
Sure.
So yes, it was a very pleasant experience. I don't know what else I could show. Maybe how it looks in the editor is good to have a better understanding of
Sure.
how the experience went. So imagine that some of the blocks were pre-selected by me just to give the lesson a structure. But then let's suppose that our subject matter expert wanted to add some more interaction or other pictures that he thought were more valuable. The only thing to do, and the good thing is that there are many ways to access this block menu, was clicking here or adding a block from here and basically having all the different categories of block to support his content creation divided in a very straightforward way. We have different collection here, and one is Vinted. So these are blocks that I could make ad hoc for our subject matter expert whenever they couldn't find something that suited their needs in the Parta collection category.
Sure.
Or collection. So basically, I could create structures exactly how they were envisioning them. And this also created a bigger collection for our subject matter experts. So basically, you see that amazing e-learning made by your colleague, you want to replicate it, you cannot find something, and then you have it in a new collection that was built by adding more and more to the library, right? So,
right. And I think it's important that you are now spending your time doing things like this and creating these bespoke things rather than copying and pasting from a PowerPoint, right? Like how the process is sometimes when we do it all ourselves, right? Like I know I have taken and just copied and pasted things out of a PowerPoint, and I'm like, oh, I could be doing so much more. So I like that you highlighted that you are able to kind of create those custom blocks too for your SMEs as they need them. That's great.
Yeah. And I think that another example that could be useful to share is what happens when your subject matter expert is not exactly tech savvy. So, for example, we had not just not being tech savvy, I mean, here was a combination. I think that here the subject matter expert was underestimating his capability of creating content in Parta, was a bit scared. It just needed to give this a try a bit, and then eventually it started to find the process fun. And also it was lacking time. It didn't plan to be involved this much in the content creation. So basically we agreed to have a webinar session of this training content first and started with breaking the webinar into small pieces of content, into smaller video. And basically we have a menu here using tab interaction available in the Parta collection, where basically we can see only the bit of that webinar that we're interested in.
Nice.
So this is how we started co-creating for this Confluence eLearning. However, it started finding the process very fun and very intriguing. So it started exploring in Parta by himself. And I noticed that he created this whole session on how to navigate our knowledge portal completely by himself. Just let me find
great.
the lesson. Yes, is the we know overview. So basically I placed this content from the webinar here, is a almost 4 minutes video, and he made the video summary.
Nice.
Using tabs. So basically we have the content of the video break down into smaller parts with the navigation tutorial that he made in the webinar into a more interactive form, which is also good for those learners that maybe are in the office, they don't have their, headphones with them and they cannot listen to the video. So this is exactly the same content provided into a different format. Great. And I love this thing. Like I love finding this thing here below the video.
Yeah, yeah. When you give people the keys and the support, right, to explore, you'll be surprised at what they do,
Yeah.
It's great.
Francesca, maybe you can also share like the way how you also kind of guardrail the workspace from the user management perspective and from the collaboration perspective, because probably you need just with the level, with the proportion of L&D and non-L&D users, the way how you can navigate and be exactly where the effort and help is needed. I think that's going to be interesting for the audience as well.
Can you already see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, so basically this is a slide that I prepared for today because of course there are all names and emails here, as you can see. Now they're covered, but it's very convenient to have everything displayed like this for me. And as you notice, there are different levels of permissions. For example, me, Andrew, and our IT administrator have pro access to the tool. This means that basically, there are admin rights and, for example, distributing the licenses, but also the pro part of it, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, is what enables you to access the no-code editor, which allows you to create ad hoc blocks that are not available in the Parta collection, and also to get crazy and create
and overwhelm.
Yeah.
And I think it's also it's not just the functionality that is not available, it's also not visible. So with that, we will kind of not overwhelm our SMEs with the functionality that they should not be using. And the same works with branding, right? Because when I look at your courses, is all the very standardized branding of the content. So this is the other permission. I don't know, like Francesca, is it you who manage the Vinted branding in your workspace?
Yeah, and this thing, I wasn't understanding the value of it at first when Andrew told me about this, because I was like, okay, I think if you are a freelancer working for many different companies, this thing will definitely save your life. But I work for just one company. The branding is just one, and I don't need this kind of thing. But then, but basically, last summer, our branding team announced entire rebranding of our organization. And was like, damn. But so I was kind of scared of it, and I started giving this thing a try. And then after I created the copy of the older branding and updated to the new brand guidelines, and choosing the brand template to all the pre-existing courses I've built in Parta, I saw everything outdated in seconds. And I was talking with my team members about this thing. And I said, dead man, referring to Andrew, saved my life or solved my life, something like that. And a colleague of mine was like, that is not a sentence you hear a woman say about a man very often. But that was exactly the case for me. So basically, I have everything updated in just 1 second. And just to give you an overview of this, basically, we can select the fonts and the color. And we can also go section by section and element by element. So here we have the main section of our e-learning. So the navigation button, the progress, the side panel. So that was the menu on the side that I showed before when I was navigating through the courses. And then you can modify, for example, how rounded the images will be, if they will have a border or not. The player of the audio, it's amazing. Like, it saves me so much time.
Yeah, and I know being on an L&D team, well, being on a customer education team in the middle of a rebrand, that it's panic, right? You're like, oh my gosh, we have all these courses and all these videos, and now it's just so easy to apply that across everything. Yeah, that's a great.
And Francesca, like how do you use the like comment and task? Have you like extensively like navigate to this kind of part of the platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm not sure I can share a lot of that because we're working on like confidential content with it. But for example, I have one subject matter expert that got super passionate about creating content in Parta, and she's always asking if she can develop stuff in it. And we are considering giving her a pro license because she wants to learn. And basically, the commenting section is about giving me instruction on what she wants and how I should do that, which is super fun. So basically, I just execute, and it's super, super fun looking at how she understands the logic behind the no-code editor, because we have co-creation session together where I share my screen and she learns to work with it. But normally, yes, it's also subject matter expert asking, if there is too much text, so asking me to review under the instructional design point of view, and other times like, why can't I create this block like I seen in the other course, and basically guiding them through the different collections that we have.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe I can show though how it works, for example. So it's very straightforward. Yes, so let's go back to Confluence. It's super convenient because there is so little clicking involved. So once you select the comment section, am I sharing the right type, right? Can you see how we're going? Okay, so basically, rather than having the comment lost throughout the whole page, you can go section by section and actually element by element. So the comment now that I'm leaving now is referred exclusively to this card. And when I'm going to review all the comments I get from subject matter expert, and clicking here, like fix the shape, then basically I will be redirected directly here, and I won't being able to misunderstand in any possible way, and making sure that I'm correcting the right thing.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful.
So exactly as supposed. Thank you, Francesca.
So we have about 10 minutes left. I would love to open it up to questions. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, let's do it. I think we have a first question from Anna. Can you see, Francesca, the question?
Let me see. Yes. Visual design elements. If I hand over a lesson to a subject matter expert, they might start uploading their own images icons and such, which may clash with our brand design. Okay, I am very lucky because I have our branding team sharing this set of guidelines with the entire organization. So sometimes it can happen that a subject matter expert need to share, for example, images from technical books. And now that I have much more time on my hand to, give proper support to everyone, something that I can do is recreate those schemes and illustration that I have shared from the subject matter expert in a way that is consistent with our branding. But most of the time, yes, the fact that the branding team shares the brand guidelines with everyone also helps me a lot because I can guide them through different choices.
Yeah. And I think providing a lot of direction is important when we're working with our SMEs because it's important to remember that that's not their day job. And so they are doing something like you mentioned, like you were surprised and impressed when that person built the little summary of the video because that's not what they're normally spending their day doing. So anywhere where we can help them and give them direction and let them know what the expectations are, I think is always good.
Yeah, I think that it's good when you start working with Parta, your ways of working should change a little bit. And one way this happens is by planning more time to spend talking with the subject matter experts. Because, like, something that I did say I appreciate about Parta is having a bigger variety of voices in our digital library now. And to not stop that from happening, I rather gave them like a blank page. There is a template, of course, otherwise it would be too difficult for them. But basically, give them freedom to add everything they think could add value and make an impact through the instruction that they are sharing. And then maybe during the calls, helping them understanding that some images or some choices could actually not help the mission and goal of conveying information. So, and that also covers the part of choosing the right image, being consistent with the brand, or even the tone of voice sometimes.
Yeah. And that also contributes to that overall learning culture is continuing to teach people what we do and how we do it too,
And if I may add to this, another thing in which Parta was a huge help is that you can have shared resources on a platform level. So you have resources with images that can be accessible to everyone. And you can also have project-specific resources. So basically, often happens that a subject matter expert don't have access to the brand images and illustration library. In Parta, they have direct access to that. So sometimes they don't know which image to choose. They can find a whole set of pre-selected by me library there. And that already helps a lot, filtering a bit and avoiding the risk of having inconsistency.
Yeah. Great. Other questions? Feel free to put them in the chat or however you can come off or I believe you can raise your hand. We can tag you in. No other questions. You did perfectly, Francesca.
Francesca, one question for me because I wanted to share also kind of your evolution in this story because I know that your role has changed throughout this kind of journey inside the organization. So yeah, if you can just share this, it would be awesome as well.
Yeah, it was like with my manager, we've been discussing for a while about extending the scope and the responsibility in my role. And that is finally happening. And is not as low progress as we both thought that would have been. But yes, and I think that the thing was the project my manager had for me was establishing a learning culture. And I looked at Parta as a way to buy myself more time to do that, handing over a bit, delegating a bit the responsibility of building e-learning. So I looked at Parta as a solution to, fix the, uh, little capacity I had left for the learning culture. Instead, Parta didn't actually help me with e-learning production. It did help me directly with creating the learning culture. So, yeah, that's incredible. Basically, I skipped a whole issue going directly to the immediate goal.
Yeah.
So, yes, growth is happening for me on a professional level, and it's great.
Yeah,
I
thank
think
you,
that's
Francesca.
important because I think a lot of times we think, oh, if we let other people into our little bubble or start creating things or we share some of that ownership, that it's going to be a detriment to us or it's going to like have us lose job security. So I think it's really important that you share this story that no, it helped you gain job security and made you more invaluable as a partner and as you said, an instructional designer.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, Andrew.
No, I just wanted like to add to this because obviously we are seeing the broader market, and I would say that now we have quite a few like global organizations trying like to solve the same problem that Francesca you did. So I think
Mm-mm.
it's really very important not to like underestimate like what you've done, really, Francesca. And I told you like multiple times because we are seeing that on top of all the instructional design experience and expertise, the next big thing for like global, like really kind of professional L&D teams is change management and finding
Mm.
the way how you can change the workflows, how you can stay relevant with the new like challenges, with the new tech stack, etc. Because like again, I know that Parta is just the part of the formula, just the tech itself is never a solution. So I think it's the great value in today's like webinars and the story. It's all this change management, and there is no like copycat like formula for everyone because there will be some similarities, but obviously it's different cultures, it's different like a level of like tax savviness of SMEs, etc. So the formula should be adjusted to every organization. But I think what's important with Francesca's story, it's possible. And I think it's not just black and white. It's either us just taking over and solo creating everything, or we have like AI creating like mid-journey stuff and like text something. It's also the middle ground where you have the role for true like instructional design, for creation, for art process, but the way how you can enable the rest of the organization and find this kind of the balance. I think finding the balance is a tricky thing. Again, you should like try and like to answer to this question yourself. But again, I'm sure that this is not the last story. We'll see more and more these type of the implementations. And I hope that like I think what I loved also kind of Francesca is this transition like from like I'm scared to like totally opposite stance. So yeah, that was kind of one of the kind of the fascinating kind of things that I was impressed with Francesca. This kind of also not like just the organizational change, but also kind of the whole like emotional journey that you had.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're right at time. So, Andrew, you want to close us out? I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I feel that it was like almost the closing.
I
But
know.
yeah, yeah, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate Francesca and Heidi your time and the way how we moderated today's conversation. And thank you guys for joining the call. This is the first one. I'm sure there will be more. So stay tuned. And I think we'll share the playbook that was designed by Heidi. So yeah, I found a ton of cool stuff there. So wait for kind of for recording and the playbook soon. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your week.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.